Welcome to Streets and Eats, the podcast where we want to inspire your next trip by telling you about some fantastic destinations and the best food to eat while you're there. Now remember, until the world opens completely back up and we all feel safe to travel again, this is a great time to be researching and planning for that next trip. I know I'm missing travel so much.
I can't.
Every time I see something on TV, we were watching Star Trek Discovery the other day and they were
in Iceland.
The setting was in Iceland. Oh my God, I want to go to Iceland again so bad. Anyway, in this episode, we're heading to Spain.
We're heading to Spain, and we wanted to do another one of our popular top 5 places in Spain. But let me tell you something. I didn't like the way it was going before because Jim and I would spend more time arguing before the podcast about what our top 5 are. I mean, these places we've gone to over and over again, and there's so many beautiful places.
Yes.
I mean, if you could, I expect everyone to just try and spend as much time in the country we're talking about because they are all worth it. But we've been to Spain, oh gosh, more times than I can count. We have good friends who live in Rota, and we would go down there quite a bit when we were living in Europe. And it's the first place I'm going back to when we head back to Europe again. But so we're going to change it up a little bit. Instead of just having argued offline the whole time and deciding our top 5, I wrote down my top 5. He wrote down his, and we're going to sort of have a little
than 5 that I wanted to talk about.
Well, I actually have 6 too.
Yeah.
But we're going to sort of have like a little.
So we'll whittle it
debate.
down to
we're
our
going to
top
whittle
5
it down
together.
With you, and hopefully you can agree with us or disagree, and maybe your top 5 will be a little different than ours. That's okay.
And that way, everybody gets to hear a little bit more than just
the 5 places that we ultimately came up with.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see how it goes. We might change back to the other way. This is an experiment.
All right. So the first time I went to Spain, and I think it's part of the human psyche. The first time you do something is maybe the most memorable, the first and the last, of course. So for me, the first time I went to Spain, I was very young. I think I was probably 21, 22. And it was a TDY. I was in the Air Force, and I had gone down with a couple of other of my mechanic associates, compadres, to recover a stranded jet that needed to be repaired. We had a base at the time in Torrejon, just outside of Madrid. So the first place I went to in Spain was Madrid. Well, it should have been a pretty easy fix, and we would have just spent one night and then hopped back on our transport plane and flown home the next day without really getting a chance to do anything. But the engine mechanic that I was with, I don't know if he didn't know what he was doing, or if he was doing this on purpose, or if there was really a problem that couldn't be solved. But the job we needed to do that should have taken 5 hours ended up taking a week and a half. And we would work for a couple hours on the plane and try a few different things to fix this thing that he had trouble with. And then put in an order for a part. And of course, we had to wait for a day for the part. So we would have a good 18 hours to go off and explore. So into Madrid we would go. Well, my first place to add to our list is Madrid. But specifically, the Plaza Mayor. Now, of course, it's the main square in Madrid. It's one of the oldest parts of the city. And it's a pretty stupendous main square just to visit.
And if you'd like to go out and spend some time at night partying and having a good time,
that's where the fun is.
You want to go to Plaza Mayor. And when we were young, like Jim said, it was one of the first things we did. And we both loved it. And for years and years and years, Madrid was definitely our favorite city in the world. Yeah. I think as I got older and I kind of outgrew that party.
Well, Madrid has changed quite a bit.
That partiness in me, that partying Corinne, which I never had much of anyway.
No, you didn't.
There were other parts of Spain that I think I like better.
Well, but let me give my argument for the Plaza Mayor. The square itself is great. I mean, it's a beautiful square. It's got cafes and shopping around the edges of it in these the columns and arcades, and it's just beautiful.
It is beautiful.
But if you go outside the square and around the corner and down the street, where the foundations are built into the earth, and there are little tapas bars and taverns,
and they're open
and kavas,
almost all night.
and those are open, all night long. And each little one has its own specialty tapas.
It is cool.
So you go tapas hopping from one to the other, and then from there you can keep on going down to probably the most popular tapas street in Madrid, the Calle de la Cava Baja, and you could just spend the entire night into the morning trying different tapas, drinking wine, having a great time. But
I mean, it is fun.
Madrid has changed a lot. It's no longer our favorite city. It's lost that.
It's just not quite as polished or as, I don't know. The last time we were there,
It was pretty seedy.
It was really pretty seedy, and there were a lot of human traffickers.
We had a lot
there
of
was
propositions.
There was a lot of things that just did not make us feel as comfortable as we used to feel. But in saying that, the Plaza Mayor is pretty darn cool for sure. Well, one of the first things I had, you probably wouldn't even think of, because this place, I don't really like big cities as much as I like small places. This place is as small as it gets. It's called El Rocio, and it's in Doñana National Park. And it's only about an hour and a half from Sevilla, so it's in southwestern Spain. And what it is this old, it's like an old western town with a Spanish flair. And all the houses, of course, have that whitewash, and they're very ornately with their frames are very ornate. They have like the rounded top and then like a little lip, and then they're just very cool looking.
Painted
They have
tile.
cast iron, beautiful lamps throughout town. And there's not really any cars. You have to park in a parking lot, and you can't drive all the way in there. They can drive if they live there.
Oh, and they're all dirt roads.
And they're all dirt.
Well,
it's all
dirt,
sand.
Yeah.
It's all sand. So, and then there's these horses that will take you around. I mean, it's so Western. It's so different. It's a national park, so you can see flamingos there and all kinds of bird life.
It's great for birding.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It was just stunning. The whole place was just stunning. And we stayed there overnight. So we stayed in a hotel there. And at night, it looks like just all gas lit lamps. And it's just this beautiful place.
It's got a great feel to it.
It's just nothing like even anything else in Spain, really.
But now that's a pilgrimage town.
And it's a pilgrimage town.
Plan your visit accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, the pilgrimage is interesting to see.
Yeah, it is.
But at the same time, you probably wouldn't be able to stay there.
Yeah.
Because it is
not without some serious
completely
planning.
Full. And there'll be lots of crowds. What it is they found a wooden icon of the Virgin long ago, hundreds of years ago. And they, of course, built a church, and then they called the church the Hermitage, and you can still see the Virgin in the Hermitage. But what the pilgrimage is every year, thousands of pilgrims come in covered wagons
to see it
or walk to see this Virgin. It's pretty cool. Anyway, it's nothing. The food is good. The people are neat. But there's not a whole lot of people around. It's really it's just a really cool place.
It's a great place to go to explore the national park that's nearby.
Yeah. And it was just really pretty and just secluded, and the flamingos
that is
were
more
gorgeous.
Our style, I guess.
It's more my style.
I mean, you're going to probably fly into Madrid anyway. So to say that's a top, I'm not sure I would.
Well, I tried to stay away. For my top 5, I didn't say Madrid or Barcelona, which, by the way, I love them both.
Both great places.
Because I just feel that
you're probably going to go there anyway.
You're going to go there anyway. And there are so many other places to go that are cool. Anyway, so El Rocio was my number 1 pick.
Okay. Well.
And you can see why.
Yeah. So my second one, and I think we'd probably have some agreement on this one, was Mahon, which is the port city on Menorca, which is in the Balearic
I didn't
Islands.
pick Menorca, actually. I picked Mallorca and Palma. But really, I think just our whole trip
That's
to
a
the
great island,
Balearic
too.
Islands was amazing.
And we loved Ibiza.
We loved Ibiza. Now, I did not think I was going to like Ibiza because
Well, it's a party.
I'm going to Ibiza.
It's a party city.
For years.
And it is a party city.
It's a party city. And there were partiers there. But we went for a day from Mahon, I think.
Yeah, we took the
Mahon.
ferry, early morning ferry, and then a late night ferry back from
It wasn't
Mallorca.
too late. It was just early evening, I think. But it was a day trip. And we hiked in Ibiza.
It's got a stunning castle.
And you get up high and you can see out to the turquoise blue waters. And oh my gosh, it was just stunning. But I wouldn't want to stay there because all it is for me.
For us,
now, if you like to party, then that's where
the
you
party
want to
spot.
stay for sure.
And we would, it could definitely be on our top 5 for both reasons, for people who love to party. Or if you don't love to party.
Regardless, I would go to the Balearic Islands.
Yes.
And I mean, it's just wonderful. I think Mallorca itself was cool because it had that the most dangerous road, the Serra de Tramontana, Sacalobra. And then that's where the bicycle
the most
teams.
dangerous because of all the bicycle teams.
Well, not just that, the curves and there were a lot of
fun
bicycle
road
teams.
to drive. And yeah. I don't know if I can handle the bicycle up the mountains.
Yeah, right.
But the down could be fun.
Could be dangerous. But anyway, they're all beautiful. They have beautiful beaches. We went in spring, which was just stunningly gorgeous.
Beautiful.
There were flowers everywhere.
On Menorca, when we went to Mahon, do you remember the fort that guards the harbor? It's an old 18th century, I think it was built by the British when they were there. It's a great place to explore, but then you get those like carpets of wildflowers growing around it
Stunning.
in the spring with the clear cobalt blue ocean crashing into the cliffs below. I just love that.
Those
are great islands.
And we stayed in Airbnbs, but the Airbnbs seem to be run a little bit differently than they are in other places. They were always part of the house, but you had your own. It was kind of like a regular B&B,
right?
Bread and breakfast, but they were under Airbnb.
Right.
That's how we found them.
And the one in Menorca was an old 15th century mansion that had been converted.
It's just a very cool place. I mean, I highly suggest anybody go to the Balearic Islands. And what's cool about it is there are tourists there. I mean, there are tourists for sure, but nothing like Barcelona.
Well, and time of year will make a difference too. The Balearic Islands are very popular among the United Kingdom travelers. So there are big winter getaway places. So that could make a difference too, the timing.
Yeah, and I'm sure they have lots of resorts, but we didn't go. And guess who we saw while we were there? The King of Spain.
The King of Spain for Easter services.
For Easter services. He was in the Palma Cathedral and everybody was waiting and we were like, what's going on? They're like, the king is coming. The king is coming. We're like, okay, we're staying to see the king. And we did.
We've seen Prince Harry in Botswana, so we might as well see the King of Spain as well.
That's right. We're all about that royalty.
We didn't shake his hand or anything.
No. We just stay back.
And it did make for a lot of crowds that morning.
Yeah, so but it was neat.
It was kind of fun.
Okay, so
the Balearic.
I did have the Balearic Islands because that was such an amazing trip. We had so much fun.
So that should make our top 5, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And El Rocio.
The next thing I had, maybe you remember this trip. We went up to Galicia. And Galicia is the northwest corner of Spain.
Right. Completely different than
the rest of Spain, actually.
Yeah, really.
First of all, it was green everywhere and just beautiful. We went in November and it was getting chilly, but we just wore, except for at the Tower of Hercules, which is an old lighthouse, Roman lighthouse. We only had our light jackets on, which was fine for everywhere else we were, but it was so windy.
Yeah.
Because we were right on the coast and oh my gosh, we were being blown away.
Could have used an extra layer that day.
We could have used an extra layer, but it was beautiful. And then what I really liked too is my favorite place there was Lugo. And Lugo has an old Roman wall that's about 2 kilometers long. and you can walk on top of it. So as you walk the ramparts, and this is what the locals do, it's a huge thing, and it's so much fun. They're wide and they're fun to walk, and you can see great views of the city. And we were there, of course, around sunset, and everybody's out just having a stroll. It's beautiful.
Well, Lugo did make my list. I was there with you too. I was definitely enjoying that place. I didn't have all of Galicia, but I agree with you. The whole region is, make that a visit.
Just an hour from Lugo is Santiago de Compostela, where everybody does the pilgrimage to Santiago. We did not do the pilgrimage. That town, no matter how you get there, by foot or by car or whatever, is amazing.
You're going to see pilgrims walking on the road almost all year long.
Yeah, and they're so happy to get to the cathedral. When we were at the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela, the pilgrims that were there were just ecstatic. They were excited. They've been walking for X amount of time. Some people had walked for the last week. Some people had walked the last, month, different amounts of time. And like I said, it was November, so it was cold. They had some rain that they had to deal with, and they were just happy to be there. It was really a neat place. I don't have any desire to walk the Santiago de Compostela pilgrimage, but I know a lot of people that have, and they've enjoyed
St. James Way, Via Santiago. You see the signs for it everywhere after you've been there, especially, and you know what it is, or after you've, I guess, done a pilgrimage maybe.
Yeah.
But in the most far-flung places, it's incredible.
So I didn't want to just pick like one of those little things because we had so much fun on that little road trip.
Well, I am a sucker for any Roman ruin.
Yeah.
So Lugo was definitely on my list.
So Galicia. I would just say Galicia. Get to Galicia. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I had Segovia.
Segovia is very cool.
Again, Roman ruins. Although the aqueduct is not in ruins, it's pretty well intact.
And it's amazingly
huge. One
huge.
of the largest freestanding aqueducts in the world. Still in pretty good shape from the Roman times with just a few repairs. So it's got that. But it also has a really beautiful 12th century Alcazar castle.
Yeah. It's almost fairy tale like, different colors.
Yeah. The cathedral just rises up from miles away. You can see it as you're approaching the city. That's very cool.
And the food again is spectacular.
Of course, is great. Mm. Oh, and we stayed at this really cool hotel that was, again, a renovated mansion right in the center.
In Spain, they have a lot of heritage places that they rent out for overnight stays. Yeah. And we've stayed in things
old
from
mansions, palaces, convents.
Yeah, convents, monasteries.
Yeah, it was one of those.
All of those. And we tried to do that the whole way because it was just so unique and everything had its own personality. And most of them serve food, which was really nice. So that's where we wanted to go. We'll put the link for those in the show notes as well. Well, I did not pick Segovia.
No.
I picked Merida, but Merida is very similar to Segovia in a lot of ways. It has a Roman bridge. It has a Roman aqueduct. It has lots of Roman ruins. Amphitheater, yeah. But really, I mean, and it wasn't just Merida. It was more kind of the whole Extremadura region, which is a mountainous part of central Spain. And here's why I picked it, because of the pigs.
It's all about the food.
Oh my gosh. The pork in Merida was the best pork I've ever eaten. That was just regular pork. It wasn't even Iberico.
Right.
Jamon Iberico. We ate lots of that too. And in fact, we took one home on our last trip. But this is where you have the pata negra or the Blackfeet pigs. Where they
saw them running around,
and we saw them everywhere, and
eating up the acorns.
They were eating acorns. They were covered in mud. They were so darn cute.
Okay, so if I'm going on the Roman ruins, I guess I would have to agree. If we're going to pick one of the two,
well, I mean they're both great, but yeah, we'd have to pare it down because
I would probably go to Merida.
But Merida had the food as well.
I go to Merida by way of Segovia.
The thing is, there's so much to see. I mean, there was a lot of places that I love in Spain that I didn't even mention. Exactly. There's tapas everywhere. Anyway, so I picked Merida. You picked Segovia. I love the pork there. Like I said, it was just a regular pork dish. It wasn't even Jamón ibérico, which we love.
It's just good food.
Where was your next place?
Well, okay, so I think I may have lied earlier.
Oh, of course you did.
Okay, so I said the first place I went to in Spain was Madrid, but I'm not, the timing is not very clear in my head.
When you're talking 40 years ago.
Exactly. We may have gone to Spain before that trip.
I think we did.
Shortly after Devin was born, we had this little Volkswagen Polo that we bought brand new. The exchange rate was ridiculous in our favor. 14,000 mark car ended up costing us like $3,000 brand new.
Brand new.
So one summer I got 3 weeks of leave and we just threw a bunch of stuff in the car. I think it was probably our first real big road trip as a family.
Ever. It definitely was.
Grabbed a map and head south down the Autobahn out of Germany, down through Switzerland, to Italy, and to the French Riviera.
Mm-hmm.
And then we followed the coast all the way down into Spain and the Costa Brava, the Costa del Sol. And I think the furthest south we made it was to Granada and the Alhambra.
Yes.
And the Alhambra is really probably the most incredible place in Spain.
I have to agree with that.
It's an old
Muslim palace because the Muslims were kicked out of Northern Africa.
Muslim royal city, I think.
Yeah.
Not just the palace.
Oh, yeah. Nazarene palaces. Yeah.
And the general life, gardens. And after the Moors were conquered in Spain by Isabella and Ferdinand, they took that as their royal palace. So unlike so many other things that were destroyed in the 15th century.
Yeah, these are intact.
It stayed intact and never suffered any real damage other than regular time. 1492, Christopher Columbus was sailing the ocean blue. He was sent there from the Palace of Alhambra.
Well, and when we first went there, I mean, years and years and years ago, when Devin...
Early 80s.
When Devin
Mid-80s.
was an infant, we could do anything we wanted inside the grounds. They had tourists. They had plenty of tourists, but nothing like, of course, there is today. And I mean, I remember sticking her up into
a little
alcove,
beautifully carved
with the Muslim sort of arch on top of it. It was beautiful. But you wouldn't be able to do that today. In fact, today they were like, don't touch the walls, don't do this, don't take pictures with a flash. And you shouldn't, because of course it erodes.
And we didn't do any damage, but just the oil on your fingers.
Exactly.
It's bad for it.
But I remember being beautiful then. And when we went back.
Oh, it's had so much restoration.
It was beautiful too.
It is incredible.
And it seemed like it was bigger when we went back the second time, but it just could
Maybe
be that I forgot. Maybe there was more that
had been restored and opened.
Or I forgot.
Because it went through a major restoration.
And then Granada, down below the Nazarene palaces, the whole downtown area is very cool.
The city center is beautiful.
All kinds of ethnic foods. If you're tired of Spanish food, which I never get tired of, but all kinds of different things you can eat. A lot of sort of Mediterranean tastes or Middle Eastern tastes and Northern African tastes. So it's all very good. Beautiful place. I definitely think that if you're getting out of the cities and going someplace, that would be high on your list.
I don't think people should go to Spain and not go to Alhambra.
Yeah, it is a World Heritage Site. So I highly suggest you go. You do need to buy your tickets ahead of time if you go to Granada.
And it's a timed entry. So make sure you buy your ticket, your timed entry, and then go earlier. Before,
here's a tip
3 or 4 hours before it. As soon as it opens in the morning, you want to get there. Have your timed entry for more like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, midday, and then spend the morning exploring the grounds, the gardens, going into the castles, and up to the top of the tower before your timed entry. Because it's not going to be cool at that time of day but it's going to be a lot cooler than it is in the afternoon after you've gone through the controlled area with the timed entry.
But with any timed entry, here's a pro tip that we have. Any timed entry, let's say most of the times they do it on either 15-minute increments or half an hour increments, whatever it is. So like ours was, I think, 10:30.
Yeah.
I think ours was 10:30. So there was 50 people who are going in at 10:30 with us. Well, you don't want to walk around with 50 people. That's not the reason you're there.
Right.
So just take your time at the very beginning and sort of let the group get ahead of you.
Right.
And just make sure you're going, like, say, like you're really starting about the 10 or 12 minute mark. And then most of the people will be gone ahead of you. There will be some stragglers here and there, but nothing like the whole 50. And then you also have, and you're also meeting the people that are coming up behind you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like hang back, but just kind of be aware of the timing that you're hanging back so that you can not have as many people in your photos, which is important to me.
And once you go in this museum, at least, there's no one pushing you onto the next place. You're just getting through the main door.
That's how most time entries are. This so just you can take entrance.
Your time. Yeah. And there was no time limit on how long you could be in. So yes, that's a great tip. Stay and don't worry about being in the front of the line. Come in at the end of the line. So most of those people will have already cleared that first room. Oh, and you can't bring anything in when we went bigger than a handbag. So don't get to the front of the line with your stroller and your backpack and have to go back out of the line to stow everything into the lockers. There are lockers there. Go ahead and be ready for it before your timed entry.
So I think we're in agreement. We're going to put that number one.
Definitely.
It's number one, folks. We've decided. And it really should be because it was just such a great period of Spanish history. Okay, so what haven't I told you about?
The only thing left on my list is...
No, that's it. Oh, no. I have one more.
Jerez de la Frontera.
Yeah, de la Frontera. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we both have that on our list.
So this is another thing we've done a couple of times. There's an Air Force base in Rota, Spain still today. Is it Air Force and Navy, or is it mostly Navy now?
It's Navy. There's a small Air Force detachment on it.
Okay. We used to be Air Force, so that's why I always think of the Air Force first. And we have good friends who are stationed there, and they've been there for a few years. So like I said, we go back to Spain quite frequently to see them. But when the kids were toddlers, we went to Rota and we stayed on the base, and Jim was still active duty. I don't think I was still active duty. You were just active duty. And we got a babysitter, and we took a trip to Jerez where you get to see the flamenco dancers and drink sherry. It's known for its sherry.
The region is known for its sherry.
We took the girls back there when they were in high school, and we did the exact same tour, basically. So we didn't get them babysitters. And I think Devin was maybe in 11th grade and Erica was in, 9th grade. And so they weren't old enough to drink or anything, but
they were old enough to taste.
But they were old enough to taste.
And this is Spain.
And it's Spain, and so it's a tour. And
actually, they probably were old enough to drink.
I think the drinking age was, I don't know what it is now, but I think at the time it wasn't a problem. At any rate, they were served
every
quite
time
frequently.
Every time we'd get a taste, everybody would get a glass to taste.
Which they didn't really care for because, it was not to their taste. They were kids. But
sherry's a pretty strong flavor.
It was delicious for us. And we drank, and then we were waiting for the flamenco. And I remember that they both fell asleep before the flamenco even started, because it doesn't start until like midnight.
Because they didn't drink any of their tastings. I had to drink all of their tastings. So instead of just the one taste like everybody else was getting, each of the different places we went, which each different bodega would give you 3 or 4 of their best sherries or wines to taste. So I would end up with my 3 or 4, Devin's 3 or 4, and Erica's 3 or 4.
Yep.
Because you don't want to send it back. That's rude.
But it is one of the towns that flamenco is known for.
Yes.
And also, like I said, it's a sherry town. But then we went back not too long ago, and in that town, with our friends, we went there to the horse school,
the Royal Andalusian School of Equestrian Art.
And that was super cool too.
Show.
They're I forget what kind of horses they are. Andalusian. Anyway, they're beautiful. And we saw everything from the guy working in the leather workshop, saddle making. And we saw different trainers with different horses around the property. And then, of course, we went to a show while we were there as well. And the things that they teach these horses to do and the shows that they do and the riders, of course. It's just amazing. It was a great day.
Yeah.
So that's high on my list too.
Also has a castle, an old Moorish castle.
There's plenty there's an Alcazar. There's all kinds of things to do there.
Great food. Yeah.
And I would say, and I wrote this on somebody else's blog one time. I was doing a guest blog. I would say it's probably one of my favorite places in Spain for kids.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot to do there. There's a lot to learn. Maybe not the sherry part. But the sherry was good for you adults.
Yeah.
But that was on my list as well, but not really. I mean, I was like, do I put it in the list or
Well, I think that's an important place.
So what is our top 5? Granada has to be on there.
Yeah.
I think you did Menorca and I did Mallorca.
Right.
So maybe if we combine those, we both love
just
Ibiza.
Say the Balearic Islands and try to get to as many of the sites as you can while you're there.
I would say, I mean, even in 5 days, you could see quite a bit because we had 9 days and we spent the whole time just traipsing around different islands. And it was a great amount of time. We could have used more. Though.
I don't think we could have done Menorca as a day trip. I don't think the ferry really worked the schedule for a day trip.
But Ibiza
worked just fine. And so you could like base yourself on Mallorca for half or for the majority of it, and then maybe an overnight on Menorca. And get to Mahon and get to
Formentera.
The forts. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So there's more to do there. I mean, you can spend as much or as little time as you want. And no matter how much time you're there, you're going to have a good time. So the Balearic Islands, and you can take a ferry from mainland Spain to get there, or you can fly in. It's easy.
Yeah. It's a long ferry. But...
so I say Granada, Mallorca, Balearic Islands.
And Balearic Islands, it's hard to say. Anyway, because it is a popular destination among other Europeans, there's a lot of cheap flights there. Ryanair, Virgin.
How did we get there?
I think we flew Ryanair.
To Barcelona.
I
think we took the ferry from Barcelona.
No.
Because we met up with them there.
From Barcelona we took the ferry?
I think so.
I'll check my notes.
Anyway, we've done so much.
Your memory is usually more spot on than mine. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
mine ends up being kind of gappy.
So let's say Granada. This is easy. Granada, Balearic Islands, and Jerez.
And Jerez.
Now what?
Galicia.
Galicia, for sure.
Yes, because we both love Lugo.
Oh my gosh.
And just the whole region.
Well, and you know what's nice about Galicia too? That whole northern edge of Spain, all the way across, it's green.
Yeah.
And it's cool.
It's a different feel.
It's a different climate than the rest of Spain, which for me is kind of important because I like sun as much as the next person, but I would much rather have greenery around me.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then Galicia, and then...
Do we have a number 5?
We have to pick from El Rocío, Mérida, or Segovia. And they're all amazing places. But
maybe El Rocío. And it's also, isn't that down near Portugal? Because it's so different than everything
else. It's in the southwestern corner,
You could add that to getting into another country and getting to Portugal. And it's very unique. Yeah.
I think it's the most unique thing.
Time it with a good migration of the flamingos or some other birds. Summer. And you'll really have a special trip. Yeah, I think so too. So we got 5?
We got 5.
But we didn't even talk about Sevilla.
Oh, no. We didn't talk about Sevilla. We didn't talk about
Barcelona.
Oh,
Zaragoza.
So many. There's so many. And we didn't really talk about beaches that much because...
True.
We just don't. But another place that you can go while you're in Spain, and it's the
Spain.
Best thing to do, one of the best things, is to go to Gibraltar.
I knew you were thinking that. I didn't put it on my list because it's not Spain.
I didn't put it on my list either because it's not Spain.
Oh, yes.
But it is definitely an added bonus in my opinion.
Love Gibraltar. And you can take a day trip out of Gibraltar to Tangiers.
Which we
Morocco.
did. We took it. We did a day
great
trip to
trip.
Tangiers one year, but then we went back to Morocco for 2 weeks later
Yes,
on.
because the
We've
day
got a
trip
lot
to
tell you.
Tangiers is not enough.
Yeah, nowhere's near enough.
Well, if you're down in El Rocío and Jerez, you could base yourself somewhere in that area, and you could still get to Gibraltar. Do something in Sevilla. They have a beautiful Alcazar there, and of course the cathedral. Christopher Columbus's tomb is there.
Sevilla is amazing. Remember the oranges in the courtyards?
Oh,
We were
yeah.
there in December one year.
Beautiful.
And
Okay.
that's just it. I think if you wanted
It's
to
so
know
hard
the
to come down to a
best
top
time,
5.
the best time to go to Spain is anytime.
When you can
Anytime
get
you
there.
can get there, go. The weather's not always going to be the absolute best, but even the winter up in Galicia, which is northern, wasn't
bad.
kind of a little rainy and windy. It wasn't
Summer in the
cold.
south, it's going to be hot. It's not a humid hot. Everybody always says that. Oh yeah, but it's a dry heat.
Yeah, it's still hot.
It's hot, but it's okay.
We've got thousands of pictures where we are so flushed from the heat. But that's okay. People love hot.
All right, so we got our 5. Would we put them in order or just keep them in 5? The Alhambra, I think for sure would be number 1. Maybe I would say Galicia, number 2, just because it's so different than the rest of Spain. The Balearic Islands, I would put number 3. And Jerez de la Frontera, number 4. And I would say El Rocío, number 5.
El Rocío, number 5. But go to all those Roman ruins too. All over the place. Roman ruins, Moorish ruins, all kinds of good stuff. All righty. We want to thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
We want to encourage you to start planning some trips. Hopefully this pandemic will be over relatively soon. I am chomping at the bit to get out of here. It's been pretty rough the last, I don't know, few months, especially with looking at winter coming. I just feel like I need to get out. But good news, Canada's open to us now, and we're only a few hours from it, so we're heading there soonish.
All right, well, thanks for joining us on Streets and Eats, where we really want to encourage you to savor your travels.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
Join us on Facebook. And until next time,
Ciao for now.